Single dad CEO hires maid as fake girlfriend, but when the truth emerges at 3 a.m., hearts shatter. The rain lashed the windows like a furious creature, and inside the sleek penthouse, a storm brewed of a different kind. Mark Campbell, a self-made CEO with a bank account thicker than most novels, sat in a dim-lit room, the weight of solitude heavy on his shoulders. He cupped a whiskey glass, its amber contents trembling slightly as he recalled the last wild scheme he concocted. He hired a maid, a radiant woman, a perfect blend of charm and beauty to pose as his girlfriend. It was supposed to keep the prying eyes and pesky gossip at bay. But tonight, something was off. As thunder rumbled ominously, and shadows danced on the walls, Mark couldn't shake the strange feeling creeping up his spine. Just yesterday, Emily the maid, who was secretly so much more than she seemed, had acted different. Her laughter, once bright, was now tinged with a nervous tremor. Something was hidden beneath her sparkling blue eyes, something almost sinister. His gut twisted, maybe he'd made a mistake. The clock ticked louder, each second drawing him deeper into a web of uncertainty. Their little charade had been going so well, until now. What if she wasn't just a maid? What if her past was darker and tangled? A breeze drifted through the cracked window, sending a chill through the air. Suddenly, there was a soft sound at the door, the click of a lock. His heart raced. Emily was supposed to be gone for the night. Swallowing hard, Mark felt sweat bead at his temples. And then it came, a whisper, like a ghost swirling through the dim room. Mark, at that moment, he knew he wasn't prepared for whatever revelation was about to unfold. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. I found something, Mark. Emily's voice was urgent, almost strained. A flash of something shiny reflected the faint light. His stomach dropped. What was it? He stepped closer, heart thundering in his chest. What truth was hiding just beyond the veil of their fabricated lives? Just then, a deafening crack of thunder split the air, and the power flickered. Mark felt the darkness close in, the room pulsating with unspoken secrets. The walls seemed to whisper, urging him to uncover the truth about Emily the maid, the girlfriend, or was it something much more dangerous? He was only beginning to realize that his heart and everything he held dear was hanging by a thread. The question loomed, would he regret unfurling the mystery? The air crackled with tension as Emily stepped into the dim light, the object in her hand catching Mark's eye, a silver locket, twisted and tarnished. It dangled from her fingers like a ticking time bomb, glowing faintly against the backdrop of uncertainty. The rain outside hammered harder, drowning out his racing heartbeat. What is that? He demanded, his voice steadier than he felt. Each word felt heavy, as if the truth were wrapped in layers of silence waiting to be unveiled. Emily's grip tightened, her knuckles paling as she swallowed hard. I didn't want you to see this, not like this. Then how did you find it? Mark pressed, stepping closer, the warmth of his body a stark contrast to the chill creeping into the room. He caught the scent of her hair, a faint whisper of jasmine and something more primal, a scent that stirred memories he fought to suppress. He could feel his resolve weakening, but the locket demanded answers. Ignoring his question, she turned the locket over in her fingers, her expression hauntingly vulnerable. This belonged to someone I knew, someone you need to know about. A shiver ran through him. Could this be tied to whatever secret she was hiding? Who? When she dared to meet his gaze, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the kind that resonated deep within, tugging at his heart. My sister. Your sister. The shock hit him like a slap. He remembered snippets of her personal life, a vague mention of a family, but nothing beyond that. What does she have to do with us? It's complicated, she breathed, exhaling a shaky breath. I thought it was over, I thought I could leave it behind. But the past has a way of creeping back up, doesn't it? As her words crumbled like old parchment, Mark took a step back, his pulse quickening. How had he become entwined in this dark history? The wind howled outside, mirroring his rising panic. What are you saying? They're coming for me, Mark, she whispered. They never stopped looking, and now, they know where I am. Time froze in the stillness of the room, the weight of her words settling in like a fog. Who? What did you do? They want the locket. It's the key to everything, the key to keeping our family safe, she explained, voice barely above a whisper. A flash of fear crossed her face, flickering like the lights that threatened to fail entirely. A sudden crash echoed outside, pulling his attention. Mark's instincts screamed danger. We need to leave. Now. But Emily lingered, her depth of emotions encapsulated in a fragile expression, on the brink of crumbling. No. She shook her head, dragging a deep breath as she faced him boldly. I need you to trust me. This is bigger than us, and if we don't uncover the truth first, it might cost us more than just our lives. Mark's heart raced. Trust her? Was she playing him? The stakes had risen dramatically, and he felt the gravity of the situation wrapped around him like a noose. Trust is earned, he replied, his throat dry, the uncertainty clawing at him as he weighed his options. Can I really dive deeper into this darkness with her? A sudden blackout plunged the room into darkness, leaving only the patter of rain and their tentative breaths to fill the void. He felt his way back to her, their closeness igniting an uncertain spark. What do we do now? Emily stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper as chills raced down his spine. We find the truth before it finds us. But before he could respond, the sound of glass shattering cut through the night, a dangerous omen that sent adrenaline surging through his veins. Who was out there? What awaited them beyond those looming shadows? The night thickened with uncertainty as they stood together, entwined by secrets and fear, knowing that the next move could tip their lives into chaos or despair. And just as hope flickered in the dark, a louder sound erupted, a door slamming shut somewhere in the apartment. Emily's voice was now edged with urgency. We need to hide. They're here. As they hastily looked around for a place to conceal themselves, Mark's mind raced. Would they even be safe in each other's company? Or had he just doomed them both by delving deeper? The clock was ticking, and the storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest now brewing in his heart. What had he gotten himself into? Would the truth set them free or seal their fate forever? With dread tightening around him, Mark knew one thing: something was coming, and it wasn't just the storm. Emily grabbed Mark's arm tightly, her eyes wide as the echo of footsteps grew louder, looming closer with each heartbeat. They had only moments before the door swung open, their sanctuary betrayed by the untamed world outside. Quick! Under the bed! She urged, her voice barely a rasp. Mark hesitated, glancing around their dimly lit surroundings as if searching for another option, but there was no time that he slid under the bed, the coarse wood scraping against his back as he packed himself tightly beside her. Their breaths mingled, soft and shallow, every pulse of adrenaline sharp and overwhelming. The shadows cast by the streetlights outside flickered, dancing ominously on the wall. He could barely see Emily's face, but he could feel her tension radiating. The footsteps halted just outside the door, and Mark's pulse quickened to a frantic beat. The sound of heavy breathing was audible, a stark reminder that danger was very much real. Then, a voice echoed through the thin walls. We know you're in here, Emily. Mark's stomach twisted. Who were they? What did they want with her? Come out now, and we can settle this peacefully. The voice dripped with a menacing calmness that sent chills racing down his spine. Emily's eyes darted to Mark, silently communicating a resolve that made his heart skip. "We have to find a way out. I can't let them take me again," she whispered fiercely, her grip tightening around his arm beneath the bed. More footsteps approached, they were surrounding the apartment. Fear coiled around Mark's heart. He wanted to trust Emily, but the depth of her past was shrouded in shadows he'd yet to fully understand. What had she been involved in? Why were these people after her after them? "If you don't come out, we will take action," the voice warned again, more urgent now. There was a pause, and then a sound that made Mark's blood run cold, a metallic click, the unmistakable sound of a firearm being readied. In an instant, Mark's mind raced, plotting an escape. An idea sparked: they could make a break for the window if they moved quickly enough. "We have to go now," he breathed, already inching backward. Emily shook her head, a mixture of fear and determination flickering in her eyes. "No. I can't leave without knowing what they want. I need to confront this once and for all." "Are you insane? They'll kill us," he hissed in panic. "You don't even know what you're dealing with." "I know enough. I can't let them have the locket," she snapped back, her voice edged with desperation. Mark's heart thudded painfully against his ribs. The locket. It was more than a piece of jewelry, it was a lifeline. It held secrets that could shatter everything they had, everything he thought he knew. Before he could argue further, muffled sounds outside shifted into a chaotic rustle, and then the unmistakable crash of the door flying open. "Search everywhere. She can't have gone far." Time stretched, a taut wire ready to snap. Mark's instincts screamed to act, but the thought of leaving Emily behind was unthinkable. But what choice did they really have? Suddenly, strong hands began to search the room, flipping furniture aside with careless force. The intruders were getting closer, and Mark felt the weight of his decision like a stone in his gut. He locked eyes with Emily, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the vulnerability she wore like armor. But in her gaze also flickered a spark of defiance that inspired a reckless hope within him. Could they truly face this together? Before he could respond to the turmoil rushing through him, the bed was thrust aside, and the light flooded in. "Found you!" one of the figures cried triumphantly. And like that, their moment of clarity shattered. They were caught. The truth was out there, and it was coming for them. The air thickened with dread as Mark braced himself, knowing what they would face next could alter everything. They were no longer just hiding, they were staring into the eye of a storm. "Emily, run!" Mark shouted as he surged forward, determination electrifying his movements. But just as they made their break toward the window, a cry of betrayal pierced the air. "You think you can escape from us?" The room echoed with the sound of boots pounding against the floor, and Mark felt the shift in awareness. The reckoning loomed closer, and he was painfully aware they were not alone in this fight. Would they win this battle, or had they just sealed their fate in the darkest corners of her past? As the fog of chaos enveloped them, one thing became clear: the storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest they were ready to unleash. Emily's terrified whisper lingered in the air, and as the shadows moved to claim them, he realized that time had run out. What truths lay waiting? And would they have the courage to face them? Mark lunged towards the window, adrenaline surging through him. He threw it open, the acrid scent of rain-soaked pavement flooding the room. "Jump!" he urged, but his heart sank when he saw the terror etched on Emily's face. She hesitated, disbelief and fear colliding in her eyes. The intruders surged forward, closing the gap with predatory precision. "You can't let them take you!" he shouted, desperately tugging at her arm. Suddenly, a powerful hand grasped his shoulder, yanking him back hard enough to send him sprawling onto the floor. Pain shot through him as he hit the ground, the weight of his fears crushing him. He glanced up, panic clawing at his throat as he saw one of the figures towering over him, framed by the doorway. "Look who we have here," the man sneered, his face obscured by shadows. "Thought you could just vanish? Mark pushed himself onto his elbows, adrenaline mixing with dread. Every instinct urged him to fight, to protect Emily at all costs, but he was trapped. The man stepped closer, revealing a glinting badge. He was law enforcement. But his expression was anything but reassuring. "Step away from her, now," the officer ordered, voice laced with authority. Emily, still cornered and trembling, shook her head slowly. "You're making a mistake. This isn't what it seems." Another figure emerged in the light, a woman with fierce determination playing across her features. "We're not here to hurt you, Emily. We're here to bring you back." "Back?" Mark echoed, a lump forming in his throat. "Back where? What do you mean?" The woman turned to him, her eyes softening with a glimpse of pity. "You don't know, do you? The locket. She's a key player in something much bigger, something dangerous." "Dangerous?" he growled, pushing himself upright. "You're the ones breaking in here, uninvited. How do I know you're not the real threat?" The officer stepped closer, hands raised in a pacifying gesture. "Listen, we don't have time for confusion. Emily, we can't keep you in hiding forever. They're after you. They? Who are they?" Mark interrupted, frustration boiling to the surface. "All I see is a bunch of people who can't even explain themselves properly." Emily's distress deepened as she stared at the ground, consumed by the weight of her past. "I thought I was free," she whispered. Mark's heart ached at the sound of her voice breaking. "We'll find a way out of this," he promised, keeping his gaze locked on her, desperate to reassure her. Even as chaos spun around them, the woman's expression hardened. "You don't understand. If we don't take you back, there are consequences." "Consequences? For what?" Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed outside, jolting everyone into silence. Mark stiffened, dread prickling at the back of his neck. He stole a glance past the half-open window where shadows moved in frantic motions. "Mark," Emily breathed, eyes wide. "It's them. They found us." The officer cursed under his breath, urgency taking over. "We need to move, now." "Move where?" Mark demanded, his heart thumping. "Away from one threat to face another?" In that instant, the reality hit him hard. They were caught in a web of danger, tangled between conflicting forces. The departure from this apartment wasn't a resolution. It was merely the beginning of something dark and uncertain. "Trust us," the officer urged, taking an aggressive stance, ready to protect them. But Mark realized one pivotal truth: the only person he could truly trust was Emily. "What do we do?" he asked her, fixated on her decision. "I can't go back," she replied, her voice firm despite the fear lacing it. "But we can't face them either," he urged. Unless we fight. Then we face it together," she declared, stealing a glance at the door. Just then, the door burst open again, and chaos poured into the room. The figures outside swarmed inside, eyes gleaming with intent. Mark felt his grip on sanity slipping away as he moved closer to Emily, their backs pressed together. They were trapped. And soon, they would have to uncover who they really were in this relentless battle. "Together, right?" he whispered, feeling her resolve pulse against him. "Yes. No matter what comes next," she answered, steeling herself as the shadows drew nearer. Would they stand against the storm together or get swept away in the tide of fate? The tension thickened in the air, waiting for the moment to shatter. And in that moment of uncertainty, Mark knew the fight had only just begun. Mark felt the air grow thick, charged with desperation as the figures flooded into the room like a storm surge. The shadows swarmed around them, faces grim and intent. Fear gripped Mark, pulling tightly at his chest as he mentally prepared for whatever was about to happen. "Step back," the officer barked, raising a hand in a futile attempt to stem the tide of intruders. Each step closer heightened the cacophony of heartbeats echoing like drums in Mark's ears. Emily clutched Mark's arm, her grip strong yet trembling. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to him. "We have to get out," she hissed, urgency weaving through her voice. Before he could respond, one of the figures, a man with piercing blue eyes and a smirk that chilled Mark to the bone, turned toward Emily. "You can't hide from us anymore," he sneered, his variegated threats laced with an unsettling familiarity. Mark squared his shoulders, blocking the man's view of Emily. "You'll have to go through me," he spat, every protective instinct igniting. The officer lunged toward the blue-eyed man, attempting to defuse the situation, but the room erupted into chaos. Bodies collided, and fists flew as shouts echoed off the walls. Mark was swept up in the frenzy, but he didn't lose sight of Emily. She was his anchor amidst the mayhem. "Focus," he yelled, urgency coursing through him as he ducked a fist aimed at his jaw. He turned to Emily, who was staring wide-eyed at the struggle unfolding before them. "We need to move now." She nodded, her expression resolute despite the fear. Just as they edged their way toward the open window, another figure, a woman with wild hair and a fierce glare, blocked their escape. "Going somewhere?" she taunted. "You think it's just going to end like this?" Mark reached instinctively for Emily's hand, yanking her behind him as he braced for more conflict. "Just back off," he shouted, frustration heating his voice. But even as he shouted, he felt the weight of despair pulsing through him. They were outnumbered, and the reality of their situation closed in like a vice. Then, with a sudden loud crack, the light fixture overhead shattered, showering the room in a cascade of glass. A moment of stunned silence engulfed them all, as panic spread like wildfire. "Run!" Mark shouted, seizing the moment. He grabbed Emily's wrist, pulling her toward the window. Adrenaline surging, they leapt together, crashing through the glass frame onto the fire escape outside. He felt the chill of the rain on his skin, heard the distant wail of sirens approaching with the promise of chaos. They scrambled down the ladder, breathless with urgency, but danger still loomed above them. The sounds of shouts and scuffles echoed from the apartment, proof that their escape wasn't guaranteed. "What now?" Emily gasped, glancing nervously upwards. Mark peered into the darkness, the streets glistening under the rain. "There's a bus stop just down the block. We can get out of here." "Please, trust me," he urged, locking eyes with her. Emily's gaze held the raw edge of trepidation, but it was met by a flicker of determination. "Let us go," she breathed out, urgency igniting her resolve. As they rushed toward the bus stop, the shadows of their pursuers loomed larger in their minds. Mark's heart raced, driven by a mix of terror and protective instinct. Unbeknownst to them, lurking shadows watched their every move, waiting to strike. They were not free yet, a dark web had woven itself around them, tightening with every step they took away from danger. Just then, Mark's phone buzzed ominously in his pocket. He pulled it out, ears straining to hear the incoming message through the rain. The words on the screen sent a chill down his spine: "You can't run forever." He met Emily's gaze, eyes wide with disbelief. "What does it mean?" she whispered, the urgency of the moment hanging like a fragile thread between them. And as they reached the bus stop, the looming shadows of uncertainty felt closer than ever. Could they escape the grasp of those who hunted them? Or was this only the beginning of the true fight for their lives? Rain poured heavily, drumming against the metal roof of the bus stop like a countdown to calamity. Each drop felt like a warning, an echo of the chaos they had just escaped. Mark's heart thudded against his ribcage, raw and desperate. He glanced at Emily, who stood shivering beside him, her breath visible in the chilled air. "We need to blend in," he said, trying to wield a shred of control in this spiraling nightmare. Looking around, he spotted a shadowy alleyway nearby. "Come on." They ducked into the alley, pressing their backs against the damp brick wall. It was cooler here, darker, and the rain provided a temporary shield against prying eyes. "What do we do now?" Emily's voice trembled, but her eyes started to show a flicker of determination again. Mark stared at her, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "We just lay low for a bit. Wait for the bus, get out of the city. We have to stay ahead of them. But even as he spoke, doubt crept in. The message on his phone gnawed at him. It felt like a noose tightening. They had barely escaped the apartment, and the weight of all those eyes, their chilling certainty, was still pressing down on him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the alley, shattering the rain-soaked silence. Mark turned sharply, instinct kicking in. "Stay close," he whispered, pulling Emily farther into the shadows. They huddled there, listening as footsteps grew louder. A group of figures emerged, drenched but unmistakable. The blue-eyed man led, a satisfied smirk plastered across his face. The woman with the wild hair followed closely, her gaze shifting around as if hunting for a scent. "There!" the man shouted suddenly, his voice dripping with malice. "They won't escape this time." Panic surged in Mark again. "We need another way out." He grabbed Emily's arm, ready to sprint down the alley when he spotted a glimmer of hope, a fire escape ladder leading up. "Up!" he commanded, and in that split second, they dashed toward it, the sound of footsteps trailing them like a haunting symphony of doom. They climbed quickly, hands slipping on the wet metal rungs as they ascended. Behind them, voices erupted in anger. "Don't let them get away." Mark felt Emily's hand squeeze his as they reached the top. He pulled her onto the rooftop, gasping for breath, their hearts beating in sync with fear. The city sprawled below them, a maze of lights and shadows. As they crouched behind a large air conditioning unit, Mark glanced back. The figures emerged into the alley, searching, their silhouettes sharp against the fading daylight. "They're looking for us," Emily said, almost too calmly. The shock of their situation was settling in, like lead in her veins. Mark turned to her. "We have to think of something. We can't keep running blindly. There has to be a reason they're after you." "No." She shook her head violently, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "It's my fault you're in this. You should have left me back there." "Don't say that," Mark said, gripping her shoulders, the tension vibrating between them. "We're in this together. Whatever it is, they want both of us. I want to let them take you." In that moment, they heard a whistle in the wind. The blue-eyed man leaned against the fire escape below, cigarette in hand, grinning up at them. "You think you can hide?" he taunted. "That's just adorable." Mark felt fury churn within him, but with it, a sudden realization. "Emily, what do you know? Why would they say you can't hide?" I don't know." She looked back at him, panic swirling in her eyes. "But I might have seen something. Something that should have stayed hidden, Mark." Her confession hung heavy in the air. The blue-eyed man flicked his cigarette away and laughed. "You're in deeper than you thought." Mark's breath hitched. "What do you mean? What did you see?" But Emily's eyes reflected a storm, full of secrets waiting to be unearthed. The hunt wasn't over, it had only begun, and danger lingered just beneath the surface of their fragile alliance. With the shadows lurking below, they had to confront the truth or risk losing everything. What had she seen? And would trusting her instincts cost them their lives? A gust of wind whipped across the rooftop, chilling Mark more than the rain ever could. He could hardly register the implications of Emily's words as they hung heavy in the air. "What should I do?" he breathed, concern tightening his throat. "What did you see?" Emily glanced toward the edge of the roof, her eyes wide with fear. "If they catch us, I can't let them find out." Mark's mind raced. This was much bigger than either of them had anticipated. Trust was a thin thread, fraying by the second, but they had no choice but to rely on each other. "Listen," he breathed, "we'll figure it out. Together." He was trying to keep the panic from his voice, but it felt like a surreal battle of emotions. But before they could sort through the chaos, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed from the fire escape below. "Why chase shadows? The blue-eyed man's voice soothed like honey, dripping with false charm. "We just want a conversation. Isn't that fair?" Mark clenched his fists. This wasn't just a plea, it was a threat wrapped in deceit. Emily's eyes snapped to him, wide and searching. They were trapped, like rats backed into a corner. A plan throbbed in his mind, powered by desperation. "If we're going to do this, we need to act fast," he said, his voice steadying. "We can't let them get to us first. Can you trust me?" Trembling, she nodded, though uncertainty pulsed between them like live wires. They could hear them below, their hushed whispers molding into plans. Mark felt a shiver crawl down his spine. They were going for his weakness. Their discovery of Emily had pulled the first thread. "Let us create a diversion," he whispered, "and then we can jump to the adjacent building. It's a risk, but it's our best shot." Emily looked at him, her resolve rekindling as she surveyed their surroundings. "But what if we don't make it?" "We will," he said, injecting fierce confidence into every syllable. "Just follow my lead." With one last glance, Mark took a breath and hurled a discarded metal canister off the roof. The clatter rang sharp against the alley's concrete, a deliberate lure. A startled shout erupted below, halting their pursuers for a heartbeat. "Now!" Mark yelled, leaping across the gap between buildings with a surprising burst of adrenaline. He landed hard but steady, reaching back for Emily. She followed, her small frame an echo of his determination, but just as their feet hit the roof, the blue-eyed man's laughter sliced through their victory. "You really think you can run that easily? You're only delaying the inevitable." The tone sent chills racing down Mark's back. There was something about that statement that suggested they had been underestimated, yet it felt like they were holding a ticking clock. "Come on," he urged Emily, adrenaline pumping through his veins as they sprinted toward the edge of the rooftop. But another thought clawed at him. "What did you see, Emily? You have to tell me." I can't explain it," she gasped, dodging a puddle that threatened to trip her. "It's like I stumbled onto something they didn't want me to know. Something that changes everything." Before Mark could respond, a loud crash echoed as figures scaled the sides of the building, with eyes trained solely on them, practically vibrating with malignant intent. "Time's up." The blue-eyed man howled, his tone now fierce, the illusion of carefree pursuit shattered. Mark's heart raced as he felt the second round of footsteps grow louder. The thrill of escape was rapidly pouring into a sea of despair. He could sense the finality looming. "Jump!" he called, but as he turned back to grab Emily, he felt doubt grip him again. What would happen if he decided to trust her clarity over the growing chaos around them? The air crackled with tension. Would revelation come too late? And was their fight for freedom about to end? The darkness encroached fiercely as they stood on the precipice of an uncertain fate. What lay ahead, victory or doom? The next leap could either tether them to hope or send them spiraling into peril. One thing was clear, the truth needed to come out, or they might both pay the ultimate price. The moment Mark took off, his pulse raced, synchronized with the pounding footsteps behind them. He pulled Emily along, her breath quick and shallow, barely keeping pace as adrenaline gripped the air like a vice. The concrete roof felt like a volatile battlefield, each second weighted with danger. They sprinted toward the edge, the stark drop below forcing a flicker of doubt into Mark's mind. But there was no turning back. Not now. "Mark, I can't keep this up." Emily cried out, fear entwined in her voice, reverberating through him like a shockwave. "Just a bit further," he shouted back, urging her to push beyond her limits. Each breath felt like daggers in his chest, but he couldn't falter. Not while they were hunted, not while truth dangled before them, just out of reach. Then, an echo of laughter danced on the air, as chilling as the rain. "You really think there's a way out?" The blue-eyed man called, his voice taunting, smooth yet filled with menace. "You're running in circles. You can only delay the truth." Mark stole a glance over his shoulder. Was it desperation, or did that twisted smile hold hints of satisfaction? It unnerved him. There was something wrong about the way they pursued him, like they enjoyed the chase, like it was all a game to them. Jump! He yelled once more, fear propelling them forward, but doubt flashed in Emily's eyes. What if it's a trap? It's a risk we have to take. Mark spoke with fire. Risk is our only chance. The distance to the adjoining roof loomed large, but so did the lake of uncertainty swirling in his chest. Mark launched himself forward, muscles straining, and landed with a thud. He staggered but regained his footing. Come on! He yelled, as Emily followed suit, eyes wide with resolve. She leaped, her feet connecting with the gravel, but a loud crack ricocheted through the air, an ominous sound that sent tremors through Mark's body. The blue-eyed man had reached the roof's edge, shouting commands to his crew below, which quickly approached. There's nowhere to run. Don't you see? His voice carried heavily, a sinister undertone hidden beneath his facade. The dread weighed down on Mark as he felt time stretch, each second a grim reminder of their vulnerability. Emily! He called, panic creeping in. We need to find cover. But the realization hit him like a cold wave. Where could they hide? This was an open space, surrounded by a vast sky. Their only refuge was the distance they could put between themselves and that knife-like laughter. Over there. Emily pointed to a doorway leading down an emergency stairwell. We can slip away. With a united breath, they sprinted toward it, heartbeats pounding in tandem. They slid through the door just as a weight descended behind them. A moment later, the world outside dimmed, muffled footsteps, location narrowing. Mark pushed the door shut with a slam, and they paused in the pitch-black, bodies pressed tightly against the cool metal. He could feel Emily's rapid heartbeat against his own, her warmth grounding him despite the dread. What do we do now? She whispered, breaking the silence. Now we listen, he replied, straining to hear the urgent whispers filtering through the door. The others were on the move, chaos echoed through the shadows. Even in the dark, Mark's instincts kicked in. These people know something about you that we don't. The sentence hung, heavy with implications. You need to tell me everything, Emily. What really happened? A breath caught in her throat. Then silence. Emily, he slid down to the floor against the wall, dread boiling beneath his skin. Please, what are we dealing with? The darkness didn't speak, but he could feel her grappling with the weight of the decision to unveil her secret or protect herself. Suddenly, a loud bang turned their collective panic into action. Run! Mark yelled, grabbing her hand, pulling her into the darkness, but as they moved, shadows flickered in the corridor. Something glinted. A truth that was meant to be hidden shot through the tension like a bullet. Mark's gut twisted. What if we're losing more than our lives? And then, he knew. If he didn't reach her before the truth finally emerged, everything would change forever. Emily, I need you. He pleaded as they skidded around a corner. Just ahead, a flickering light illuminated their path, a glimpse of what lay ahead. Time was running out, but so was their hope of finding safety. What would Emily reveal in the face of danger? Would the truth save them, or would it destroy everything? The air thickened with tension as Mark and Emily dashed down the stairwell, desperation fueling their every move. Each footfall echoed eerily, bouncing off the concrete walls as if to remind them of the danger lurking just beyond the door they had slammed shut. Keep moving. Mark urged, dragging Emily behind him. He couldn't shake the image of the blue-eyed man and his chilling grin. Was this really about survival, or was it a twisted game in which they were pawns? Emily's breath came in sharp bursts, each inhalation filled with panic. I can't. I can't keep running like this. She gasped, the heaviness of her words reflecting the weight of their situation. She staggered, and Mark turned, his heart squeezing at her exhaustion. Just a little further. He insisted, gripping her hand tighter. I promise we'll find a way out of this. Just trust me. In a flicker of light from above, Mark caught a glimpse of desperation etched in her face. And what if we can't? She asked, voice trembling. What if they find us? The raw fear in her eyes cut through him. He had to stay strong, not just for him, but for her too. We will figure it out, he assured her, even as doubt gnawed at his gut. They rounded another corner, the dim hallway stretching endlessly before them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the stairwell, shaking the concrete around them. Mark froze, pulse racing. What was that? He felt the walls closing in, they were so exposed, so vulnerable. Maybe they're still up there, Emily whispered, pressing against the wall. We need to hide. She scanned the area and pointed to a doorway just ahead. Inside. Mark urged, already moving toward it. They slipped through the door into a small, dark room that smelled of mildew and decay. The sound of their breaths was loud in the silence as they pressed themselves against the far wall. Mark, we can't stay here. Let us see what is happening, he replied in a low voice, peeking out through a narrow crack in the door. His breath hitched as he saw shadows on the staircase, figures cautiously approaching. He could hear fragments of their conversation. They couldn't have gone far. Search every floor. We'll find them and then it's game over, the blue-eyed man's voice sliced through the air like ice. The certainty in his tone sent another wave of fear rushing through Mark. What do they want with us? Emily whispered, fear palpable in her eyes. Mark straightened. I don't know, but it's tied to you. We need to get to the bottom of this. The flickering light remained a constant temptation, thumping steadily like a heartbeat nearby. Emily hesitated, looking conflicted. There's something I haven't told you, something that explains all of this. No. Mark interjected, frustration spilling into his voice. This isn't the time. We need to focus on getting out of here. But before he could register the magnitude of his words, the door creaked and began to swing open. A beam of agonizing light shot into the room, illuminating Emily's terrified face and casting long shadows that seemed to dance dangerously around them. Hide! He hissed, yanking her behind a dilapidated crate. As they crouched low, every heartbeat amplified into a drumroll of impending doom. Mark's mind raced not just with thoughts of escape but also with dread. What if Emily's secret was darker than he ever imagined? What if they didn't make it out? The door swung wider, and Mark's gaze caught a glimpse of denim-clad legs entering the room. He cursed under his breath, their pursuers were here too close for comfort. Moments passed, each slower than the last. Just then, a hand reached out and landed on the crate beside them, sending tremors through the wood. A chilling voice broke the silence. You can run, but you can't hide. Not from the truth. Mark's pulse raced. They were about to be discovered, no chance to escape this time. There was no telling what revelations awaited on the other side of this mystery. Would Emily's truth save them, or condemn them all? The shadows loomed larger, and Mark knew the next move would alter everything. Would they risk revealing what they kept hidden for so long, or would they fight for their lives, unaware of the consequences? As they crouched behind the crate, Mark's heartbeat raced in synchronicity with the rising tension in the room. He could feel Emily trembling beside him, her presence both a comfort and a storm of uncertainty. The air was thick with dread as the voices of their hunters filled the space, each syllable laced with cruel intent. Find them. The commanding voice rang out, a familiar sneer tainting the air, enveloping them in a cocoon of fear. Mark glanced at Emily, whose eyes reflected a swirl of panic and determination. Whatever it is, we have to confront it together, he murmured, almost a plead. At a heavy silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the rustling of clothes and the shuffle of footsteps drawing closer to their hiding spot. Mark strained to hear more, willing his mind to block out the mounting fear. He needed clarity. What did you see? He whispered urgently. The raw emotion in his voice urged her to open up, to spill the secret that loomed over them like a storm cloud. Emily hesitated, her lips trembling. When I first found the locket, it wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It holds a map to a hidden fortune that my sister and we were supposed to escape with. But they found me before I could leave. The revelation hit him like a punch, a secret mission swirling in shadows, tempting fate while they stood trapped in an explosive game. Beyond the money, it leads to dark alliances, she continued, her voice a hushed confessional. If they get their hands on it, they can use it to control everything. That's why they're looking for me, why they don't want me to make it out. The weight of her words settled heavily between them. This wasn't just about survival, this was about a dangerous legacy that could unleash chaos. Mark squeezed her hand, knowing they were in much deeper than either had anticipated. Footsteps approached the crate, a shadow looming large against the dim light. Mark bit down his rising panic. The moment of truth was at their doorstep. "Listen!" came a voice from outside the door, a sharp command entwined with mocking laughter. "We know you're in there. It's time to end this little charade." Emily's breath hitched, and Mark turned to her, eyes pleading. "Trust me, we'll fight this together," he whispered fiercely. Before either could react, one of the pursuers had thrust open the door, light pouring into the darkness like an impending storm. Emily gasped, and Mark felt his heart race to a frenetic tempo that echoed through the silence. The figure emerged, imposing and triumphant, the blue-eyed man, smirk in place. "Did you think you could hide forever?" he crooned menacingly. Mark surged forward, fueled by desperation. "You're not taking her. Whatever game you're playing ends here." He stepped between Emily and the menacing form, ready to fight to protect her at all costs, but the blue-eyed man merely laughed. "Don't be foolish. It's not just your lives on the line here, it's much bigger than that. The forces surrounding this are beyond your comprehension." With a surge of courage, Emily took a step beside Mark, matching his defiance. "I know what you want. The locket," she began fiercely. "Then you know it won't end well for you, either way," he interrupted smoothly, eyes locked on hers. "Hand it over, Emily. Solve your problems now, or face the consequences later." Mark felt Emily's tension, the fear battling with every ounce of resolve she had left. "I want to let you have it. You think I'd just hand over my sister's legacy?" She shot back. The air crackled with energy as a new storm brewed in the face of confrontation. Mark could see uncertainty flickering in the blue-eyed man's gaze as he considered the growing tension. His smirk faltered slightly. "Then you leave me no choice," the man said ominously, reaching toward his waistband. "Step back!" Mark shouted, adrenaline surging as realization washed over him. "We'll fight our way out of this." The words rolled off his tongue with fervor, sealing their fate as warriors caught in an impossible struggle. Sudden chaos exploded in the room, fists flying, voices clashing. Emily and Mark maneuvered desperately, their instincts guiding them through a whirlwind of danger. As they struggled against the dark figures closing in, Mark breathed deep, calling on every ounce of strength within him. The echo of footsteps pierced his focus, and a resolve fueled Mark's actions, a singular purpose that pulsed through him like fire. "Trust me," he yelled over the chaos, the words meant for both of them. They had to stand united. Emily's clasp was reassuring, firm against his own as they fought through the maze of limbs and shadows. Each movement, each connection felt like a dance of defiance against the tide closing in around them. Then, as the figures stumbled back, uncertainty etched on their faces, Mark had an idea, a desperate gamble. "Up the stairs. We can get to the roof." He gestured, the door still ajar, an opening to hope. "Go!" he shouted, shoving Emily toward the exit, adrenaline coursing through him as he shoved one last pursuer back. They rushed up the stairs together, feet pounding against concrete, urgency propelling them forward. Each step felt like a promise, freedom beyond the storm. Bursting onto the rooftop, rain poured down, washing away the chaos below and illuminating the stark outline of the city around them. Mark wheeled around to face Emily, breathless and wild-eyed, the truth of their circumstances swelling between them, heavier than the storm. "We need to plan our next move now," he gasped, instincts still racing. "Then we need to make it count," Emily said fiercely, eyes sparkling with determination amidst the chaos. As the storm raged on, they stood together unbreakable, embodied by raw vulnerability and fierce hope. The shadows that chased them still loomed, but now a sense of purpose fortified their resolve. They would face whatever awaited them together, unearthing the secrets bound by blood and betrayal, ready to embrace the unknown. And as the pressing night enveloped them, Mark just knew he wouldn't let go of that flicker of hope, the promise of tomorrow hanging tantalizingly close. They were alive, battling the encroaching darkness, allies in a truth that would either save them or lead them deeper into the abyss. Even as the storm raged on, it became clear. They would fight for their freedom, for each other, and for the secrets to come, unleashing the storm within. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you're the first to know about our next exclusive story that'll knock your socks off. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep amazing content like this flowing. Flood the comments section with your theories and reactions. We want to hear all your thoughts. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this jaw-dropping conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.